So good afternoon and welcome to the Instituto Cervantes of New Delhi. I just wanted to greet you in our language, Spanish, because as you know, this institute is dedicated to the promotion of the Spanish language and to the promotion also of the culture of the Spanish-speaking countries, which are more than 22 countries. I would also like to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Anita Bhatnagar, Joint Secretary, Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Human Resources, Government of India. Also our special guest, Shri Joginder Singh, former Director, CBI. Also Shri Minal Kantidas, Senior IPS Officer of Government of India. Dr. Swarna Lata, Director and HOD of the TVIL program, Department of Information Technology, Government of India. We'd also like to salute here very specially our distinguished guest, Rajiv Kumar Srivastav, Chief of Election Commission, and Ashok Tikuji, who has made, the pleasure to join us from the Cabinet Secretariat. Having said all this, and thank you very much for being all you here, I would like also to greet our distinguished keynote speakers, like Dr. Anil Dhingra, Chairperson of Center for Spanish Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Michel Ustinov from the Institute of the Anglophone World, University of Paris, Sorbonne, Mr. P.P. Giridhar, Head Center for Translation Studies, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Dr. Ana Isabel Revillo. She is the head of education of our Instituto Cervantes here in Delhi. And finally, and especially, I would like to thank Shri Ravi Kumar from the Indian Translators Association, which has been really the soul inspiring all this event. And having said this, I would like just to start a few comments before we kick the ball and start. We are going to have a very 3 intensive days of talking about translation. And as you know, there is the old Italian sentence, I think you all know this sentence, which is called traduttore-traditore, which means basically that all translators are traitors. That's, you know all very well because you're working in this field. And that, as you know, responds to a certain feeling we translators have, and I am myself a translator, that and also sometimes the reader have the feeling that always something is lost in translation. And that's why the traduttore-traditore, the treason of the translator. But I wanted to start with this sentence just to indicate that the spirit of these talks is just a contrary. I think there is always something wrong in translation. And translation, there are no bigger builders of bridges between cultures and different civilizations as the translators, as we know. And we know that translations can be incredibly efficient, even when we read a sacred text from another culture, which is completely alien to us. It happened to me when I first read a translation of the Bhagavad Gita, an English translation. I was so struck by that book, and that was a simple translation in English. Was a very different and classical language like Sanskrit. So therefore, I really think that in a globalized world, in a world that wants to be globalized but doesn't want to be homogenized, translation is an interpretation, is the only way of talking among us. So welcome in this spirit that translators are always giving something. And I would like also to mention, I remember when I was a student in Spain, that we had a very big manual regarding theory of translation by Dr. Yerba. He's a classic in Spain. And I remember Dr. Yerba golden rule. After many pages of discussion and examples and going into the details, Dr. Yerba he was expressing a very simple rule and was asking, when you translate something and when you are finished with translating something, just ask these 2 questions about your translation to test if it is a good translation or a bad one. And the first one is, did I add something in my translation that was not in the original text? That was the first question. Put something extra which was not there. And the second question, did I leave something out which originally was there but I forgot to put? With this very simple test, you can already start, you know, and making, I think, very, very good translations. I would like to say, and I'm really thankful to Ravi Kumar, that I am really impressed right now. I'm impressed by the scope of this conference, by the quantity of speakers, and also by the quality of these speakers. In fact, we have here people at least from 4 continents, from the Americas, Europe, Asia, Australia, and there is also presence from Africa. I was counting the countries. We have, of course, from India and Spain, we have a lot of people, but also from Canada, USA, Germany, Russia, Japan, Australia, as I mentioned, Belgium, Indonesia, United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates, Mexico, Turkey, etc. So that's really, I think, a great achievement, and I must congratulate for this the Indian Translators Association. During these days, and if you see the program, it's a very full of different topics. We'll talk about translation in from many different perspectives and many different angles. We'll talk about the cross-cultural challenges of translation. We'll talk of translation as a nation building, and also, which looks to me very interesting, as supranationalism, which is very important in this globalized world. And I think there is a lecture on translation and the construction of Pan-Africanism, which I think is going to be very, very interesting. We will talk, of course, of translation as an industry, translation as a business. And I would like to remind you that right now, more or less 5% of the global market of translation is related to India. But I think that India has a lot of potential, and that in the coming years, translation will be a key industry in India, and this 5% of share in the global market will increase dramatically. We have also the challenges that translation poses in such big countries as China and India, emerging new countries. It will be the role of translation in the building of these countries in this century. We'll speak even, and I was very amazed to see this, the first time I see this kind of topic in a conference or seminar on translation, spirituality and translation. That would be, I think, a very interesting thing that could happen, I think, only in India. And I am really proud of it, because writing about spirituality it's already a challenge. And I think translation and spirituality is a very good topic. And of course, I am very happy to have also a Spanish panel, the problems of Spanish in translation. And I would like to thank again my head of studies with chair, Mrs. Ana Revillo, and the teachers of the Cervantes Institute that are going to participate in this table, Subranso Banerjee, Cristina Redo, and Luis Bauschauli. We'll talk again, and that's an important topic, of post-colonialism and translation, especially regarding Hindi and other Indian languages. And of course, we'll have a lot of talk about methodology in translation, what are the techniques, and that we will go more into the details. So in short, we'll talk about all kinds of translation: literary, commercial, scientific and technical, legal, and, which is very important, about machine translation, which we cannot no longer avoid. There are many tools now that were not before, and we should be aware of the tools are there and how to use them in a proper way, and the role of internet in translation. Even, I find a very interesting paper also on the role of translation as a medium of protest. It's the first time I encounter such an idea, which looks very, very interesting. And last but not least, मुझे भी बहुत खुशी है कि अंग्रेजी के अलावा भी यहाँ हिंदी में कुछ लेक्चर होंगे. ये तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, हिंदी में भी होने चाहिए. कभी-कभी जब हिंदी के बारे में हम लोग सोचते हैं, हम देखते हैं कि हिंदी एक देसी भाषा है. देसी भाषा के रूप में हम लोग देखते हैं. हम लोग समझते हैं कि हिंदी तो दिल की भाषा है, लेकिन दिमाग की भाषा नहीं है. जब दिमाग की भाषा हम तो अंग्रेजी में बोल लेते हैं, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि हिंदी दोनों दिल और दिमाग की भाषा है। और हिंदी में इतना सामर्थ्य है, मुझे लगता है कि हिंदी का सामर्थ्य का सही पहचान अभी तक नहीं हुआ। और अगर हम लोग तो थोड़ा सा एक बार हिंदी के लिए एक मौका देते हैं, हिंदी भी एक वैश्विक भाषा बन सकती है, एक ग्लोबल लैंग्वेज। हिंदी कैन इजीली बिकम अ ग्लोबल लैंग्वेज, अंग्रेजी की तरह, चाइनीज़ की तरह और स्पेनिश की तरह। So thank you very much and enjoy and learn about this seminar. Thanks very much.